So, okay,
Sorry, I forgot. Yep.
no, that's
Okay,
okay.
go ahead.
So, so okay, Shanna, let's get the other view, right? So, if
Sure.
Girija, Jayashree, Kushal, what is your thought?
Specifically on the business problem, right?
Right.
What
Yeah.
they
What is the
what is their
context?
understanding?
What
Yeah.
exactly they're trying to like? What is the purpose? Why did they even float this RFP or proposal for the plan?
Yeah, so based off of the plan that's been outlined, it looks like they want to upgrade all of their software applications. And one of the things that I had noticed is that all of their softwares have kind of been, although they had similar goals in the technology, they were developed separately. So the new system, they want to have everything kind of in-house. They want to integrate the current applications with the data and then make sure that it is HIPAA compliant, as well as having all of their EMRs available to all healthcare providers in that system.
Okay. All right. What do you think, Jayashree or Girija?
Yes. I see here at first they are having already in a software and they want to just include one more piece to it and they want to upgrade the software with less expense with a better system. So and they want to use like pluggable software, like everybody can use it, like Windows operating thing, and they want to transmit the patient record into the new one. So I
Okay.
feel like process,
Okay.
productivity,
All right.
cycle time, they want to do it faster so that everybody can access to it. And because of cost cutting, they are like merging the two counties, health districts.
Okay.
Mhm.
Right. What else? Jayashree?
I feel like, it's like they want to develop a new system, like new software, public health nursing software application they wanted to develop. And like business problem identification, I feel like it's a process improvement and productivity improvement. And at the, like, uh, in the third thing, like three drivers, like customer service, economical condition, and social implication and technology. So I thought like that is important. They want to change the like from transaction based data processing to analytical based information delivery, like because the software is going to use by everyone, like they want some transparency or like so.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think
So,
along that like same line with the transparency, I think there's also a highlight for collaboration. That way, all providers within the system can access the same information, the same chart, and be able to cross collaborate between multiple teams in the county and district.
okay. So, Harshal, if you can just scroll it up a little bit. No,
Yep.
the
Okay.
top. Right.
I have
So,
one doubt.
uh-huh.
Like the document was like from 2013, right? We are like 2012 2013, but that day you told like MS Windows, like Windows 10, it is going to like now they are not going to use, but the project which we are talking about .NET and SQL and Sybase. So my doubt was like, are we still going to consider that as like on basis of like Windows 10 operating system, or
So,
that was my first doubt.
so I would not worry about like remember,
Okay,
even though the
okay,
project is 10-year
that's
old,
mm-hmm.
so think about it is
Hmm.
don't go on specific version of the technology
Okay.
here, right?
That's
Think around what is the intent, right?
hmm.
So when you look at it, right, the first part of the purpose of the statement actually sets it what is the current environment, right? So the key thing they look at it is they have a vision and goals that they want to take it certain aspects of their current health related product and processes to a much more new technologies based environment, and they want to like enable the analysis based on a data, right? And then they says the way we're going to do analysis based on data is to build some sort of a data warehouse, right? Then what Herschel just highlighted, it talks about, hey, they already made a progress towards that goal. And here is what the current status of the progress. So think about it, it's setting the context to give you knowledge is, hey, this is the big picture. This is how much we have done it. Now they're going to go into say it's what exactly we would like you to do it, right? So they don't want you to be coming up with a completely brand new strategy on things. They said, so we already have a vision and strategy, right? So the vision is they want to advance the technology aspects and they want to do it a data warehouse for the health district, right? Now, when you read through this, right, you need to understand it is why do they want to go into the newer technology? Because they have a working system, right? So the intention is to go into that. It's essentially the problem is that's the if you scroll down, the next section is talking you about what exactly is driver, right? So when you look at it, right, they had to individually upgrade the softwares. They have to manage individually things. So they are looking at it, the scale and the benefit of coming it together to essentially become a less expensive. Okay, so the intention here is the cost reduction so that they can manage and essentially do it more with the less. So instead of each district running and building their own individual systems, they said, what if we pull it up and build it a common system that both of us can use it, and it's a less expensive because it is going through the software modernization. It's more like a plug and play type of environment. Okay. So think around it, right? The description there, they said they want to outline the process of how this could be accomplished, what's going to cost, and what is going to take it in terms of time and cost and effort to implement the nursing program. So your primary driver here is the cost reduction. And in the proposal, they not only want to do a cost reduction, but they also want to implement a new nursing program, right? So they want to do it the capability in expansion, right? And this is the aspects that they want to talk about it in terms of what capabilities they want to do it. They want to be compliant to the regulations, and they want to be, instead of like it's manually transmitting all the records, they want the system to provide them capability to do those electronically. Right? So cost reduction is the primary driver, but they want to take an advantage of that reduced cost to also build in additional capabilities or features, right? Which is typically, it's not traditionally like it's how you're thinking about market share, right? It's an expansion of functionality. It's an automation that they're trying to do it. So you can say there is some productivity is going to be involved, some going to be process enhancements, but all of those are secondary benefit that they're looking. The primary benefit is they want to do more at the less cost, and that is what its driver.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, let me ask just a question here, pose a question for the folks here, right? So there are two different districts, and they are trying to implement this type of or build this type of software. Based on your whatever experience you guys have in the past, do you know what type of challenges they will face, or what type of issues they will encounter while rolling out or building out this system, this type of systems, implementing in different areas?
Yeah, first will be like, the population. The ABC county is like low end of like metro, and the XYZ is like large county. So the main difference is like population of the county is different. And then only like XYZ, it is having like employee master and payroll system and purchase request. What is this iron purchase request iron system? So they only XYZ has it, but ABC don't have. So I think Like,
Also, I think, Herschel, maybe each county has a budget assigned to it. So maybe I'm just thinking the bigger county may have a bigger budget and then the smaller county. So I don't know how they'll come up to terms with the fact as to how much each is going to contribute towards the project, which is going to be used by both these counties.
So those are funding related items, right? So
Yes.
funding will be taken care. Let's assume
Okay.
project and they are moving forward, right?
Mhm.
With their building out this system.
Okay.
So that's assumption. Based on your experience dealing with anything, not related to IT or anything, can you guys think of anything? What type of, because that will become part of your analysis as a business analyst. You have to tackle that, and that's the main problem you will tackle. Basically, I think
Does
Okay.
people,
So
I mean,
So
do
let
people
me
come
ask
into, yes.
let me ask the same thing that Harshal
yeah,
pointed out in a different way. Maybe that will help you to think
Yeah.
differently. Okay. So let's say if you have two stakeholders, right? Let's say, let me give an example, right? Let's say I and my daughter go to buy a car,
Mhm.
right? And the salesperson is going to try to pitch me to sell a car, right? To two of us. What are the kind of things they need to think about it?
Something
Right?
that will apply to
your
you and
budget,
them.
like what type of
Budget, is the budget going to be concerned same for both me and my daughter?
no.
Okay. What about the capabilities of car?
Mhm. Your requirements or her requirements will be different, right?
Right. So think around it. Whenever you have two different districts, what kind of challenges are you going to run into?
Yeah, they have different requirements. That will be the basic thing.
Right. So if you look into right in the middle of the screen, right, the key thing they talk about it is that you're going to build a software program that will meet requirements of both the health districts, right?
Hmm.
So some of the challenges
Oh,
a
yes.
business analyst you need to think
Yeah.
about it is when two people have two different requirements and you're building a one solution for them.
Craig and Tanya
Hmm.
have to be on the same page. Okay.
That's an example,
Mhm.
right?
Hmm.
What other things? What other challenges that you think that you need to address it as you go through it?
So if you work for Microsoft, right,
Mhm.
or I don't know whatever company you work for, right, and you go
Mhm.
to different company, right, and you
Mm.
go in the same role, what things you would do differently, right? So they will have their own processes, basically, right? The new company, you have to adjust to their processes.
Yeah.
Previous company had their own processes. You have to adjust to whatever you were used to it. So that's the main challenge you're gonna have, right? So
Yeah.
think
Every
in that
company,
terms.
hmm,
Every company has their own processes,
different culture, different
right?
rules, different. Yeah.
Right. So this XYZ county is doing their own business process for managing the case, managing the PHN work, whatever work they have identified, right? And the ABC company is doing, ABC district is doing their own way. So as a business analyst, you will have to work with both and find a common ground, right? Otherwise, how would the system will work?
Correct.
That's the challenge you're gonna have. So
Okay.
that's why I don't know whether you guys heard of any of the terminology, like a business process reengineering. That is kind of like a key aspect that business analyst works on.
Okay.
So what is my current process? What would be the new process once the software is implemented, basically, and how the new process will be rolled out to each of the employees or how they will be trained and so forth. So those are some of the things you have to keep that in mind. Yeah.
Well, also, right, as you go through it, right, let's go back to the text example that I was talking in the class, right? So let's say if I'm doing it itemized deduction and Herschel does it standard deduction, and you're building a TurboTax, right? It's a similar scenario, right? You have two different county with two different needs, and you're building a common software for them. So as Herschel pointed it out, right, you need to understand their processes, you need to find the common ground, and then there may be some scenarios that you may have to take a different path based on where the case is originated, what it is, right? So you not only need to find a common ground, but you also need to find any exceptions that you need to build it out in the process to address specific needs. And in some cases, the county has to come to an agreement they will change some process. In some process, they may not be able to change it because they have built the systems in silos. Right?
That makes sense. I think,
Okay.
I'm thinking of like where a common process would be, which would fall under HIPAA, right? So all their HIPAA security measures, essentially when we are helping them create this this one area based off of two different processes, HIPAA is going to remain the same, and we'll still have to take all the same security measures across the board between both stakeholders, right?
Correct. But then they may have different. Remember, when you have to send it out, the electronic records, right? If they are like sending it to the same person or same department, it may be the same. But if they have to get an interaction with the other private providers, that may not be the same.
Right.
Then you have to worry about it because they may not be in the same. Two different counties may have different contracts, right? With the different entities. So you may have to start thinking about where the variation needs to be done and where the commonality needs to happen.
Okay, that makes sense.
So right now we are just pointing it out, right? I mean, these are some of the challenges that you're going to face as a business analyst. Whenever you are building out a new system or enhance existing system or whatever you do with the system. So these are most common roles and responsibility that falls under business analyst, basically. Working with the users and identifying and solving these type of problems for the processes, standardizing the processes, and redefining the processes once the software is rolled out and so forth. Okay, so that's all. I think we're going to talk a little bit more as we go through the camp on how you can approach certain things as part of the business modeling and other items.
Sure.
Okay. All right. So what type of things? So I know you guys mentioned, right? So these are the drivers. I think you guys all looked at it, and I think you guys understand what are some of the drivers basically they have. Now I'm gonna jump to the last page because that's kind of like important. So other things you can consider as a noise, right? Proposal is proposal. That they can dump everything, technology side of things, business problem side of things, and as well as depending on who is writing the proposal. Okay, so that's what it is. But what are the main things they are trying to build as part of the new system, right? So everybody understand the project cost and evaluation side of things. Is that, I guess, how they're approaching it, or how they plan to roll out the software?
Yes, I think one question that I had in terms of the plan of action is and I think we addressed it in terms of it's a database, right? But I think when I was reviewing it initially, my question was the software going to be for a database, or was the software going to be for hospital systems, or a combination of both?
So this would be, I don't think they have clearly laid out who will be the end users for the software, right? But at this point, the county district users, right?
Okay.
So not the actual people, but those people working at the counties, those counties, maybe the nurses, right? Who actually does the assessments and evaluations and so forth. So there will be the internal users of those counties or who are employed by county, basically.
Okay.
So those folks will do all this work, right? And that's what I was going here. So you can the technology side of things. We're not gonna go through much deep, but let's talk about what they plan to build, right, as part of the system. So that might give you some idea about who is using it.
Little bit up more. Yeah, there we go.
Yep. There you go.
So you guys mentioned there, like they are going to build it in like 3 phases, like first phase is in March, like 19 March to 22nd April. That
I
is the
think it's a
development.
five phases, right?
Yeah.
They said 5
So
phases. So
development of design of the nursing daily activity program, and then patient registration.
Yep.
So they have given it in the notes
yep.
already. Yeah.
No,
Right.
but what I think Kusal is asking is who are the end users? Have they specified anywhere here? Now, this is just a proposal, right? So once the project is approved, it becomes a project. That's where they try to bring on board business analyst to actually
At
look
this,
at each and every item in detail and collect the detailed level of requirements for the software. So this is at the very high level proposal. So they may or may not identify any of these users. They might just identify high level features. This is what we want. This is our vision. That's all they are talking about here. So kind of like a
Yeah.
daily activity, nursing and patient registration and stuff. Now, who is using it? As a business
maybe
analyst, you will need to identify as you go along and start building out, designing or collecting the requirements for these modules.
Yeah. So think
is
of
it
this way,
at this
right?
moment, is it not like internal users, like, because they mentioned in the all phases like development and training, and also
You know,
I
but
feel it's a nurses.
when you say internal users, right?
Yeah.
Who are the internal users?
The
Nurses is one
nurse.
scenario. Is that the
Yeah.
only users, right?
At
Those
this
are the
moment,
kind of
because
things,
it's a.
right? So I want you to draw a parallel to the example custom creations we talked about in the class, right? We did a half page, give you an overview, give you essentially a bound and a scope of what needs to be done, right? Think of this way. In this document, what Herschel is pointing out is the bound and the scope that you need to think about when you build the physician's
Yeah.
data system,
Yeah.
right? So when you're building the PHN systems, they want you to consider this 8 processes, which are talked about here. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
And what you need to start thinking about a business analyst is, okay, do you have sufficient information for those 8 processes? If not, what kind of question you need to ask them to really understand those processes and really understand what needs to be implemented versus what will still happen, manual task. How is those processes happen today versus how it is expected once this system is built?
Yep. So those are some of the things that we will probably talk in like maybe session 3 or 2. I'm not sure what's but I think by session 3 you should have a good idea about what are the different techniques you can use, leverage to go in deep and take a deep dive for the actual requirements and so that you remember the goal is to, as a business analyst, you will take a deep dive into each of this module of the system and hand over the requirements. It could be 50-page long or it could be 1,000-page long. We don't know. So, but that's the discovery session you will need to have with the business basically, and design or come up with the solution for the system.
Yeah.
So that's where the techniques comes in the picture for the business analyst. Go ahead, Dilip. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm kind of thinking about, right? So the first important question I have for all of you is, do you understand what problem they want us to solve?
Yep. That's correct.
Right? Is there a clarity? Do you have any questions around what exactly the problem we're trying to solve? Or do you have clarity of what problem is going to be solved?
So with the with the definitions of the systems and the software modules, are they trying to create a single software that breaks down into these multiple modules? Are they trying to integrate it all into one single software, or are they having multiple softwares that have this as well?
So think about this is, does it really matter it's a single software or multiple software? What is more important? It's an ecosystem that they're looking at to solve it, right? It's not about a single software or multiple software.
Okay.
Think about it is that, hey, we need to build all these capabilities. And that capabilities may be a single software or it may be multiple software working with each other. So
Mhm.
if you go back into the architectural diagrams that we talked through it, right? It
Mhm.
could be a service-oriented architecture with the different services in it. It could be a three-tiered systems, right?
Mhm.
Definitely, they don't want a monolithic or client server, right? It's
Right.
fairly obvious when you look through the descriptions. But it could be service-oriented, it could be multi-tier, it could be a combination of those two. It could be a mobile one. I don't know if they wanted nurses to access it over the iPads. I don't know, right? So those are kind of things that we need to discover. Take,
Mhm.
as I mentioned, right? I try to relate it with the common things that you look into it, right? So if I go say it's, hey, I need to buy two-story house or build a two-story house. Is your problem clear? Yeah. But then the question comes in is, yeah, I want a kitchen, I want a bedrooms, I want a basement, I want a patio, I want a garage. That's a description, right? But then you need to go into, as a business analyst, it's great. Is that sufficient for anybody to build it? Probably not,
Mhm.
right? Then you go and say, okay, what, how big you want the kitchen? Where do you want the kitchen? Where do you want the bedroom? Is it on the first floor, second floor? What purpose you want to use the basement for? What should be the layout? What are all the amenities you want in the basement? What are the amenities you want in the kitchen? Right? Once you have all those details flushed out, then only you can give it to the builder and says, now you go build it.
Hmm. Okay,
Right?
yeah, that makes sense. And I think what, what came to mind when I was thinking of single software versus multiple softwares was an overall like ease of access, how if everything is in one place, but again, like you mentioned, it goes back to okay, who's the end user, who's going to be using it, and things like that, because then that would help us narrow down what would be more beneficial in terms of building this.
Right. Also, when you talk about one software versus multiple software, right?
Mm-hmm.
Things could be on a web,
Mm.
right? It's not an application. Think of it.
Right, right. Okay, okay.
Now,
Yeah.
going back to your so this is what they have identified, right? With this is what they call multiple software. They currently have it, right?
Mhm.
With the ABC and XYZ district, basically. So that this is what they currently have. Now, obviously, it's not helpful for them because these are all separate applications or separate databases and so forth. So they
Right.
cannot really get a single view of the patient or what basically, because everybody has their own. Now, if you guys read through it, right? So there was assessment phase one. I'm not sure anybody looked at it, but there are different phases they talked about, right?
Mhm.
So phase one, which is here, project time frame. So this is where basically 90 days to implement, right? Registration, encounter modules, and all those things. So somebody has to do the assessment, and that's what they complete the assessment as part of the phase one as well. And they came up with basically they identify what they currently have and how they see basically this is what the ABC county had, this is what XYZ county had, right? And observation issues and concerns they identified, basically that they cannot use HIPAA requirement, basically, and so forth. Now, what they want in the future project, these are the things they want as a high level, right? So these are the features. So it will be a single software, basically. They envision as a single software. Now, technology wise and architecture wise, that's up to the architect and developers to figure out how best they can build the software once the requirements are identified, basically. But your focus as a business analyst on the capturing the requirements, what the user needs, basically identify from that standpoint, and then hand it over the requirements to the developers or work with the developers to implement those requirements correctly. It's a life cycle. It's a overall project. It was about 2.5 years, right? It's not like overnight. So so it takes some time to collect the requirements for different modules and build it out, build out the system or module in that particular software. Hope that makes sense, Kuso.
Yes, that makes a lot of sense. I think, yeah, it's pointing out like important areas to keep in mind and highlight. Because I think sometimes because I've worked in some hospital systems, my mind kind of gets on that one track mind, where I think it's important to kind of explore these other options and avenues. That way it's not getting stuck on just one area that may be beneficial. Because although one area may be beneficial, there are also other areas that can be just as or maybe even more beneficial as well.
Right. Okay. Now, essentially, most of the software in the hospitals, even, I mean, they are all integrated, right? It's a single module. Maybe they are using Epic or Athena or Cerner or whatever it is, or custom developed software, but they work similar ways, kind of like integrated data flows from one module to another module and so forth.
Yeah. Think around, right? It's a complex ecosystem, right? You will have individual components, but those components and the architecture needs to talk about, right? What is the API? What are their specific roles? And collectively, that is what they are looking for it to get a singular view. Most of the systems and the databases are in silo, right? So they can't get the whole picture. They're trying to get it a whole. Think around. There is a term called swivel chair in the most of the IT industries when you see it. When your two systems are built in a silos and they don't talk to each other, and if you need to have the information passed from one system to another, you need to essentially take an output from one system, manually go into the second system and type it in, right? That's called swivel chairing. That is the problem that they have it, and they're trying to resolve that problem by building it a unified system, which essentially enables you to communicate across the different components or capabilities.
Okay. Anybody else has any thoughts? Anybody not clear on the business problem? Or has any thoughts, I guess, in general?
Dilip, if you have a chance, if you could just like a rundown as to how does it work? Who decides the technology? Like when you send this kind of a thing, does the BA, is he aware? Is he or she aware? Like when I look at my list that I've made based on the details, like for example, employee master and payroll system is only in XYZ, but not in ABC. The purchase request is on the second side. So does the BA sit back and do the entire analysis, or who decides on the technology part, or the technical people sit with them and figure out before they kind of meet the client, or how does the cycle work?
So think about it, right? First, you need to understand what problem you're trying to solve it, right? If you don't know what problem you're trying to solve it, you will not know what kind of questions to ask, right? Once you know what problem they're trying to solve it, then what is the next step? Typically, you do it. You're trying to understand what is the current state, right? So a lot of times the current state will be, hey, can you tell me what systems is built in? What technology it uses it? What are the pain points and what are the capabilities of those systems? That's the type of questions you ask to understand it. Then you look into it is, okay, now that you understand what the problem is, what is the current state, you start talk about is what are the changes you need to do it in the processes. What is the existing as its process looks like, and what will be expected process if this solution is implemented, right? And you start asking questions in those contexts, and that will bubble it up in terms of what capabilities you need to build it in the new system, and how that should work or behave.
Okay.
So there is a structured approach to this analysis, which we will cover in the camp.
Okay.
So it's not like a random thoughts, right? That you have to do this, to do this. No, there's a structured approach. You go step by step on building out how you want to approach it, the type of complex problem, and make it easier to communicate with the users and so forth as well.
Got it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So think about it, right? They talk about in the school, what is the work breakdown structure, right? Let's say if I do a math problem, they teach the kid how do you break that complex math problems into smaller pieces, solve each of those pieces, and bring it together.
That's where the analysis part comes in.
That's
right?
where this comes in, right? So that's
yeah.
what Herschel is pointing it out. There is a structured process that you need to think about it,
Got it.
and then we'll talk about that process over the next few sessions
Sure, sure.
to talk about how you break it down, how you ask those questions in order to understand what it needs to happen.
Okay.
Those processes are nowhere identified in any books. Okay, so if you try to read any business analysis books, you will get lost because those processes are not there. That comes with the experience. This is how the companies do it in the real life, and that's the structured process we will follow here
Sure.
as part of your techniques, learning the analysis side of things. Yeah.
Sure.
Let me ask that. As you read through this document, do you have any questions around what problem we're trying to solve it, or what is kind of present in the document?
When we
I
share,
always go ahead.
yeah, when we share our, I mean, the both counties, both ABC and XYZ, they need to like maintain, when they collect and maintain and share, while sharing, they need to like have extreme security through the development of the software.
Right. So think about it, right? So if you ever go to a doctor, right, and they say, hey, you need to go see this specialist, and typically that, or you need to do certain tests, right? Let's say you need to do a blood work. You go to the doctor's place, you need to do a blood work. A lot of times, blood work is not done in the same place, right? So they will send you to some lab.
Mm.
A lot of times now they send your order electronically. So you just show up at the blood work place, they take your blood work, and then send it back the information, right? So you don't want any of those information, whether it's the order is sent or you got the test results, unencrypted, right? So you need some sort of security that you want to make
Yes.
sure only those people who needs to have an access are able to read through it. And the data is encrypted. So if somebody is hacking it into the system as the information is going across, they can just see it, what information is, right? That's a HIPAA compliant, HIPAA security. That's a privacy things that they need to protect it for a customer based on the rules and regulations. That's what the security thing comes in, right? Because they talk about different systems, and they talked about sending the information or accessing the information. So it has to be secure.
Yes.
It's no different than you're trying to access your bank account, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Um,
Did you have any question? Go ahead.
And the other issues it's mentioned in this thing is like, one, they are using the laptops, the other one is not getting anything like so far. So what kind of like things they are using it? Like as you mentioned already, like iPad or thing, laptop or phone, and who will be using all this?
Okay, well, what particular page you are pointing out,
Mm,
or what particular section?
Observation, issues, and concerns. I think ninth
Okay.
page.
All right. So I'm on the 9th page here.
Point 2. Yeah.
It's just in the product acquiring PCs for the nurses, right? So,
Right.
so all they are saying is this is what the current state of the technology is, how they are currently utilizing it, basically. So those are observation issues, right? So when they did the analysis, what they currently have, right, from the application wise and so forth, they identify, okay, nurses have at ABC are using laptops, XYZ is planning to use PCs, basically. That's all they are saying, basically here. Now, how it would it change? Yeah, depending on the how they plan to build the software and how much budget they have and so forth. So yes, as they go along, they will identify the requirements of accessibility, basically how the new software will work, right? As part of the requirements gathering, you as a business analyst will talk to the nurses or stakeholders and say, okay, what would be the going forward approach? Basically, how will be accessed by these nurses? And they say, oh, it could be on the web, so that means they have to have a PC or some type of device, basically. Uh, so sometimes the architecture would be driven by those requirements as well, because if it needs to be available from anywhere, right?
Yes.
Anywhere meaning from the mobile device as well. So that means it's going to be a web app type of architecture versus if it's strictly accessible only from the laptops and PCs, then it could be Windows based or thick client application architecture. But those are some of the things that architect will detect depending on the requirements, and they will identify and basically design it. Yeah. But that is definitely one of the, it is called a non-functional requirements. I think we'll talk about functional and non-functional maybe in the second session, so you guys will understand how that fits into the requirement side of things as a BA, what you should be keeping in mind for some of the technical requirements. Non-functionals are more like a technical nature of the requirement versus functional, how the software, we need HIPAA compliance, we need to have this capability for nurses to go in and log the daily activities and so forth. So those are called functionality or functional requirements. But when you talk about accessibility, how they will be accessing, those are non-functional type of requirements.
Okay.
Yeah, different kinds of requirements. Yeah. So, but I think we will dive into that probably in the second session, a little bit further on those things. Okay. All right. Anybody else? I think Sana and Jayashree both are quiet, so I'm not sure if you guys have any question or you guys are okay with what we have discussed so far. So
Yeah, I'm okay. Thanks.
okay,
with what we've discussed so far.
all
Thank
right,
you.
okay, gotcha. Dilip, you have anything?
No, I think it's what I want to focus on. That is anything that is in your mind in terms of, hey, this is not clear, that is not clear, this is opportunity, right? And as we talk more in the next session, right, you will continuously start taking this information and start mapping out different activities as we talk through it.
Yep.
Then, Dilip, then I'll have a follow-up question.
ahead.
When you look at any document, right? What I'm trying to understand, where should an analyst, focus the, how do I frame it? What should be the important part? Once you lay out something, yes, we get it. Like, I'm just talking about coming back to this. How different would this document have been to make it a process or a productive need versus a cost need?
Well, so I think it's two things, right? You need to start as you read through it, right? You're going to go ahead and map it out different possibilities, right? So you read through it, you just say, hey, there is a cost aspect they talked about. There is a process aspect they talked about. There is a productivity aspect talked about. And then as you do it, you try to connect the data points and says, what is the key driver? And then simply thing you ask it, what if I don't do this? Is the problem statement still going to stand fine? If I don't do that, then what should be done, right? So there is a lot of analysis that you do it. A lot of times you read the document. If it's not clear, what is the first thing you do it? You go ask it, right?
Okay.
similar to what you're asking in the class.
Right.
So you need to understand it as, hey, if I don't have clarity, who should I ask it?
Okay.
Right? So identifying who are the key stakeholders where you need to go and ask that information is part of the
Okay.
process, and we'll talk through that, right?
Sure.
But the key aspect is looking through it and jotting what are the questions you want to ask. Preparing yourself with those questions is the key.
Got it. Got it. Okay, thank you.
Because you're going to find when you look at the different business problem, you're going to see it a different way people write it, right? So if you look into the custom creations, the way that problem was written it versus the way this document is written, they're a little bit different,
That's right.
right?
Yeah, every problem will be different, right? I
Correct.
mean, you
But
companies like JP Morgan has 500,000 systems, maybe more, maybe millions.
Wow.
So I mean, they are addressing a different, each unique problem, right? But they, at the same time, they all talk to each other. Maybe most of them talk to each other. So there are complex things that are being built in the real life as well. So you just
the
need
key,
to focus on the technique. Yep.
right, the techniques and the curiosity are the two key
Curiosity.
things you need
Yep.
to bring it to the table if you're a business analyst.
Yep. And it will come as we go through the various classes, what techniques you can apply or leverage to help identify or break down the problems further, or identify the next things that you need to do. So that will help. So
Okay.
okay, then I think looks like everybody's quiet. So I think we are good for today. Dilip, looks like.
Yeah. If you don't have questions, right, we can huddle it back again on Sunday morning.
Yep.
What I would kind of still recommend is before Sunday morning, read it one more time.
Yes.
Based on, we had a pretty good discussion today, right? Does this discussion give you a new light in terms of how to think about it?
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
Yep. All right, then let's regroup on Sunday morning, 8:50 a.m. again.
All right.
And
Thank you so much,
we'll
Dilip.
go
Thank
through
you
that
so
then.
much, Herschel.
All right.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
both so
Bye-bye.
much. See you all
right.
Sunday.
All right.
See
See
you
you
on
on
Sunday.
Sunday. Yep.
All right.
Thank
Bye.
you.
See you.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
guys. Bye-bye.